Hey, it's Hannah. This week my mom is trusting me to make over her guest bedroom. And first up, we're gonna be taking her old headboard and reupholstering it into a beautiful wingback headboard. Now I say reupholstery, but you actually don't need to know how to sew at all. We're just gonna use a staple gun. It's a super easy project, so if you've got an old headboard, come with me and let's reupholster it. Initially, I had decided that I was going to purchase a new bed, but it just never showed up, like it got lost in the mail. So I did what anyone else would do. I took matters into my own hand and decided to DIY this existing headboard. Now, I know it's not actually something everyone would do, but I thought it'd be a fun project because I could recycle this old headboard that would have ended up in the waste, and it's actually a good chunk of wood. All right, I'm gonna start by taking apart some of this extra molding and stuff that's on the headboard. God, this is so heavy. So I've got my hammer and I've got my pry bars. So I want to reuse this because this is actually a big hunk of wood. It's a good hunk of wood and we're gonna be covering it anyways. So just want to get some of this trim work off. Hopefully it pops off easily. I worked around the headboard just to get some of those excess pieces off. I took them off because I don't want it to be like lumpy when I add the foam and the batting. I want it to be all a uniform height. For a wingback look, I'm going to take the legs off as well, so they're just screwed on. This is such a great project, and I hope that this is something that you'll tackle, especially if you have an old headboard lying around and you just don't like it. I'm going to start by building the wings. So the wings are made up of a 2-inch thick piece of wood, and you can use any type of wood. I just went and I got this like 10-foot board, and I had them cut this down at the lumber store, so it's already 2 inches, and I cut it down to 55 inches. So if you want something to be like really tall and grand, you should go for something taller. The walls in this room are 8 foot, so I don't want anything too tall. So I think 55 inches is going to be a good height for this headboard. And then I'm just going to attach this. This is leftover MDF I had again. You can use like any type of wood. And we're just going to attach this, and that will make up our wing. I'm attaching these two pieces of wood together. So the first thing I did was make a pilot hole, and then I used a 2-inch screw and drove it into the wood to attach the two pieces. Here's what you're left with when you've assembled both the wings. These are the 3 pieces that we need for our wingback headboard, and now we're going to upholster them. I headed to my local fabric store to get the materials, but they were a lot more expensive than I anticipated, so I ended up getting stuff online and using a curtain for the actual fabric. We're at the point where we're going to start upholstering these. So do yourself a favor and get yourself like a electric staple gun, because your hand is going to be killing if you use a manual one. I also got this giant bag. This is basically batting that you would put inside of blankets or whatever. So we're going to use that. So this is actually much thinner than I thought. This is 1 layer. So I'm gonna actually double this up to do the arms because you don't wanna feel any wood poking through. I doubled up the batting and then cut it down to size to fit over the wing. I cut it just like a few inches bigger and longer. You wanna make sure you get the staples right and tight into that seam. As you can see, it doesn't really matter if the staples are straight on the back side, because this is a side that's going to go up against the wall and no one's going to see it. I'm using 1/2-inch staples, and if they don't go in all the way, no worries, just thwack them in with your hammer or your staple gun. Okay, so when I wrap the ends, I'm going to cut a slit here, and then I'm going to pull this over and then bring this over and staple it, and then we'll trim some of this as well. But you want to try and get like not a lot of bulkiness here. You'll have some excess left over, so just trim it off. This is so that when you put the fabric on, it's not as bulky. So for the purposes of upholstering the headboard, I got a mattress topper. This was the cheapest option that I could come up with. Because actual foam at the fabric store is really expensive, and foam by the yard is also very expensive. So let's see. Cut this. I've laid out this 2-inch foam on my headboard, and I'm trying to line up 2 of the edges so that's a lot easier to cut. Right? Like cutting 2 edges is a lot easier than cutting all 4. So line it up into the corner. Then go ahead and cut it. I found that using really sharp scissors was the best option. I also did try a drywall knife, but I just found the foam was too flimsy to cut with that. Phew, cutting that was a workout. So now that it's cut, I'm going to spray it with a spray adhesive. You can probably use a glue gun or some other type of adhesive. This is just what I had lying around. And make sure you protect the floor around your headboard, because spray adhesive, you know, it's going to get all around it. So that's why I got this ugly sheet just lying around. Now carefully take your piece of foam and try and lay it directly on top of your headboard. I messed up a little bit and I didn't get it perfectly into the corner, even though I said I would try. So I had to like cut my foam a little bit more after it actually stuck down, but really try and get it tight into those 2 straight corners. Next, grab your batting and cover your headboard. Again, I'm using a double layer of batting since this batting seems to be a little bit on the thinner side. Now go crazy with your staple gun. When you pull the batting to staple it, don't pull it too tight because it will separate. So you just want to pull it gently and then staple it. And I used a lot of staples. I stapled all around the flat sides and I left the corners. So I'm going to staple the corners last. So I've trimmed down all the edges and now I'm going to show you how to fold this corner. So it's actually like, I'm going to fold it like a present. So you know when you put this down first, then fold the 2 sides and then just like staple over it a few times. There we go. And you can see if there's like excess, honestly I don't want this. This is going to just cause bulk. Just cut it off. On to the very exciting part of adding the fabric to the headboard. Now, when I went to the fabric store, I really wanted to get upholstery fabric, but it was like $50 a meter, and that's just so out of my budget. So I went to IKEA and picked up these curtains, and curtains are way, way more affordable as a fabric than the upholstery fabric. So once I got these out of the package, I needed to make sure they were really wrinkle-free because you don't want any creases on your headboard. So I used starch, which honestly, who uses starch anymore? I'm just lucky that my mom had it. And then I did one of the world's worst chores. I ironed this. I really ironed it to make sure that I'd get all those wrinkles out. Then I flipped my curtain so the right side was out. Now you really want to make sure that you smooth this curtain out before you put the headboard on top. So I tried to get out all those wrinkles because once it's on top, it's going to be just harder to get all the wrinkles out. I had to make sure that the fabric was straight, also because this has like a very thin kind of like line in it. And now we're gonna start in the corner, and I'm just gonna pull it tight and hope that it's like nice and tight. I'm gonna pull it from the other side when I get there. I always start going across and then I do the corners last. Okay, so here we go. Continue to pull the fabric tight as you staple it, but also don't pull it too tight because you don't want to get wrinkles. I didn't pre-cut my curtain. I wanted to make sure that I had enough fabric, so I actually cut it after I had stapled to the sides. And don't forget to trim off all the edging. Okay, so I'm gonna start wrapping the wing back, and for the wing back, there's no way to actually like wrap it in one piece, because if you do, like my mom, and I got my mom to look at this as well because she can actually sew, you'll always have a visible seam, right? So like it'll be like this, or it'll be the other way. There's just no way. So what you want to do is actually cut two. You need to do it in two pieces. So first what we're gonna do is we're gonna wrap this edge, okay? So I'll take a piece of my like scrap and just like cut it and wrap this edge, and then we can go ahead and wrap the arm. Let's try this. Okay, here's what I'm doing. So I'm taking this rectangle piece of fabric. It's pretty long because of the way you have to wrap it. So remember, we're just trying to wrap this edge here, okay? A lot of this project is thinking about how you wrap a present. So this took me a bit of time to figure out, but I wanted to wrap this as a present too. So I made two creases at the top, and I'll show you a close-up in a sec, and I stapled it down. Now you also want to think about where staples will be visible and where they won't be visible, because you want to staple anywhere that's going to be covered up with fabric. For real, I was just winging this as I went. Get it? Because I'm upholstering the wingbacks. Winging it. I know, that was a terrible joke. Be sure to cut off any excess fabric because there's going to be a lot of it. Okay, that was more painful than I anticipated, but what you want to think about when you're wrapping this, right, is that you want like a nice seam here, okay? This is the part that, because we're going to put fabric all over here, it's all going to get covered, and this too, but you just want to get like a nice seam here. Now remember I talked about having a nice edge, so take the edge of the curtain that's already finished and wrap it around your wing back. Now you want to make sure this is pretty tight so it looks like it's a seam that's been sewed. And then you're going to staple it into this position. And try and get the staples right into that joint where the two pieces of wood meet each other, because that's going to be hidden when you attach the headboard. Now I'm going to staple the rest of the fabric, and this is the part of the wingback that's going to be against the wall. So no one's going to see this, so it's okay for me to add staples there. Now I had my mom come in and help me just pull the fabric because I was getting a little bit nervous about getting wrinkles in it, and she just helped me pull it tight while I stapled it. Once you've got both wingbacks done, it is almost to the finish point. You have to assemble the actual wingbacks to the headboard. So the best way to do this is upside down, and I just got, again, my mom to help me, and I drilled 2 pilot holes, and then I screwed it together. Now the pilot holes and the screws I used were actually 2 inches deep because of all like the batting and the fabric, but you also want to make sure your screw doesn't go through the front of your headboard because, well, that would just be really sad if you've gotten this far and that happens. This is really exciting. We're almost at the finish line. Now, I didn't actually make the sides of the beds. What happened was that initial bed that I had ordered ended up coming right at the last minute, and I realized that I was so lucky that the fabric of the curtain or the headboard actually matched this bed perfectly. So I thought I would just use my wingback headboard because it's a lot taller and actually a lot nicer than the headboard that I initially ordered. This is it. This is that moment that I've been waiting for. And here it is. I created this headboard and it's beautiful, and I think you could do it too. If you're liking this video, make sure you give it a subscribe. In general, I'm really happy with the way this headboard turned out. I will say that you should use a really stiff fabric because, as you can see, there is some pulling at the top, like over there. And I think if I had like a stiffer fabric, I wouldn't have that issue. But otherwise, like, it looks really good. Moving this mattress was so hard. Why don't they attach handles to mattresses to make it easier? Anyways, we somehow got this mattress back onto the bed. You guys, when you're done with your project, take a minute to just celebrate because it is a lot of hard work. I'm so excited to show you how this headboard came together. I love this project because if you've got an old headboard lying around that you don't really love, you can actually turn it into something modern and beautiful on a really tight budget. And once I got the bed styled, it looked even better. Remember, I started out with this dated headboard that really had no character. And now we've got this beautiful headboard that really helps to bring the room together. I hope you like this DIY wingback headboard. I am floored with how good it turned out. This headboard cost me about $200, but in comparison, they usually cost upwards of $800 if you buy them. And if you try this project, make sure you let me know and subscribe to my channel because we've got tons more budget DIYs with a new video every week. Next week, I'll share all the details of how I made this beautiful blue bedroom with Benjamin Moore's Color of the Year.